She was dressed to kill, I was in my booth. So I had to pay for the uptown top. Yeah, but we talked for a while in a corner booth. Before closing time, she caught me by surprise. She said, "Give me a dirt road, the windows down. You wanna get lost on the edge of town in a Chevrolet." She said, "Give me a six-pack, some Brooks and Dunn. If you want a country girl, you just found one. Let's slip away." Yeah, in a Chevrolet.
You want to go ahead and post on Facebook more? I'm going to go over to the gaming server.
I think I fell in love right then and there. We were at the door before the end of the song. I said, "Where to?" She said, "I don't care. Just don't take me home. What you waiting on? Just give me a dirt road, the windows down. You wanna get lost on the edge of town in a Chevrolet." She said, "Give me a six-pack, some Brooks and Dunn. If you want a country girl, you just found one. Let's slip away." Yeah, in a Chevrolet. Let's ride. In your Chevrolet. Lord knows I've been praying for the day a girl like her would say, "Just give me a dirt road, the windows down. Wanna get lost on the edge of town in a Chevrolet." She said, "Give me a six-pack, some Brooks and Dunn. If you want a country girl, you just found one. Let's slip away." In a Chevrolet. She said, "Give me a dirt road, the windows down. You wanna get lost on the edge of town in a Chevrolet. Give me a six-pack, some Brooks and Dunn. If you want a country girl, you just found one. Let's slip
Alrighty, everyone, welcome. It's the first edition of Triabl's Classroom here. Got Triabl Chief here along with Mr. Mortal. We're going to be live today for 2 hours, just kind of going over a couple things, superstars to run. Superstars to run this week for boss battle. Also, just in general, superstars that discounted superstars I think you can run as a free to play and a premium play. So I think there's definitely several options there that we're going to look at during this. Mortal, how's it been going today, man?
Hey, it's been going great. Hey, what's going on, Champions Universe? Mortal here. And we hope you're enjoying your week and preparing, of course, for maybe boss battle and getting ready for showdown this weekend.
Yeah, you're gonna get showdown this weekend. We don't know what exactly that's going to look like, but we know it is coming. So that's something we're definitely looking forward to after the feud weekend here and all that. Did you get my message, Mortal?
I sure did.
Okay, because I'm not seeing it anywhere. So definitely looking forward to that. That's something we're definitely going to look at. You're going to want to tag everyone, dude, in the server. Something we're definitely looking forward to there. Also looking forward to a bunch of other stuff coming up that's in the pipeline. So we're going to give it a couple more minutes here for people to get on. I know it is 6:30. We're just kind of looking, waiting on people to come.
There we go.
There we go. Got a good list of, superstars that we could, see this month. That looks like it's going to be really good. Got to tell them what we're doing, Mortal. Got to tell them what we're doing.
Yeah.
So we're just waiting for people. We're just going to give it about 5 more minutes before we really dig deep into this. We're going to have setups with. We're going to have setups for boss battle. We're going to look at other stuff as far as superstars to use. Probably do a little bit of gameplay as well when you're really looking at it. So glad everyone could join us tonight. Like I said, I know we are live. We are going to do some how-tos. We're going to have this segment out pretty good here tonight. So, like I said, we're just kind of waiting to see, letting everyone just kind of get online here as we go into this. So, let's go ahead and start with boss battle. So let's go over everything with boss battle. So multiplier is going to get an increase of times 7. Green gems are going to increase at 300%, and leech gems are going to do 500% more damage. There's going to be a 25% gem reduction. She is going to have a shield of purple gems. So you're going to either want to look for shield breakers or green gems with leech. Boss is going to heal their max HP by 20%. So Healer Steel is going to be really good. The other thing is she's going to turn any gems into bots gems and increase the MP cost of a move by additional 10 MP. So that's going to be at the 3rd turn. So the shield will come first and then the the botch gems will come next. So that'll be interesting in that sense, I think.
Oh
You,
yeah, most definitely. I
you
mean, it's
know,
gonna
most
be
people should.
if you get to that point, it's gonna get challenged.
Yeah, I don't think most people are going to get to that point, depending on how it all works out. Now, you know, you got to remember steel cage rules are going to be in effect, so that's a big thing when I look at it. Right, that something that does scare me a little bit is that because that kind of really it hurts Naomi a lot, but definitely going to run Naomi with the triple green setup. I think that's something you got to look at with her. If you have her geared, it makes it even better. When you start talking that, chaotic, I think you got to play the shield here with Rhea. I just think you have to. You have to have at least one shield, in my opinion. I don't know how you feel about that,
Yeah,
Mortal.
no, I agree with you. Especially if you have Rhea's gear, I mean, it's gonna make it so much easier. That way, you could at the same time not just buff the purple gems, but also buff the leech gems. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
but
it's a double.
I don't feel like you need the gear as much here as you normally would. It's just kind of one of those catch-22 situations. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah,
that's kind of how I'm feeling. Mae Young's got to go in that aggressive slot, in my opinion.
let me. Excuse me. Let me
Even without
pull up
being
my.
able to use the crown plate, I think Mae Young's got to go in there.
And we're talking about the aggressive spot, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah, for Green Gem, yeah, definitely. Yeah, Mae Young's to go to.
And Mae Young, I mean, I think you could get away if you want to run Acro Rhea there as well, or Liv, or Striker Liv. But I feel like you could do it with Striker Liv. I feel like she would be okay there. And we'll go over setups here as well. But, just looking at it, could go Striker Liv. And then, man, when you start talking on that defensive side, there are some options there. Um, Tiffy's obviously going to work really well with the Leech Gems. I think you can get away, and now I do want to check this out because I think you can get away with Hall of Fame Molly. Um,
That's not for fixing a mission. That's exactly what I have.
well, hers is Botch Gems, not Leech Gems. Yeah, hers is
Some of
Botch.
hers you can buff, you can buff once you start getting that once you get it going. I mean, she's gonna smash.
Yeah, I'm not liking her as much as I would have thought. Um, you know, you're gonna really want someone to do a bunch of green gems at the end of the day here, and that's a big thing when you're really looking at it. You're gonna really want to do some green gem damage or leech gem damage. I'm almost feeling like you've got to go, Tiffy in that slot. You might be able to get away with Z Liv if you're smart about it. But even then, those are, yeah, Z Liv would actually work really well. You're going to change up how you run her, but Z Liv would actually work. Um, your biggest thing with Z Liv is you're going to want to hit the, you're going to want to run it a different way than kind of standard at the end of the day. And really, you're never going to run the finisher. You're only going to run the two green moves. But Z Lib would work really well if you have her. Tiffy would work really well. And this is where I look at Tiffy, where I think you could really get by with some stuff. Um, And that's just triple blue. It's a simple process. I think you're going to be okay there if you wanted to with triple blue. So that's something very interesting to look at as well. If you really wanted to talk about it, um, you know, triple blue for Tippy, Z Liv in that defensive spot would really work at the end of the day. The issue that now they are saying that there is an alert here. Reversal moves. So if they put out multipliers, you're not going to be able to do anything. That's understandable. But let's look at some of the move sets. Obviously, if you have Showboat Mommy, I think she's going to be the killer for this feud or for this boss battle.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be one of the main carries, definitely.
Absolutely. So when I'm looking at this, let's look at the builds here. I feel like this is not necessarily a free to play player build, but I don't feel like Naomi's free to play anyway. You're going to want to run, for this one, I feel like you're going to want to stack the green gem damage. So Big Papa Pump for Naomi, George the Animal Steel, Ozzy, and Luger. You could change out Luger if you have him for Hall of Fame DDP, and I think that's going to be better for you at the end of the day than, say, someone else. That's just my opinion. Obviously, your belt, you just want to do Fury 3s and just stack up the green gem damage at the end of the day. So that's something to kind of look at there, too. Just because you do want to kind of stack that green gem damage up as much as you can at the end of the day there. But I think Naomi is going to be one of those people that you look at as someone who could really hit, because you're going to hit really right off the bat with her, and you're going to keep stacking. Another person you could look at for this one is Maxine. I feel like Maxine would do a lot of damage as well this weekend, or this midweek.
Oh yeah.
But I just don't know. I don't remember what spot she goes in. I think that's where my problem is with Maxine.
Focus. Maxine is focused.
She's a focus. So she's in there with Naomi. I don't know if she's better than Naomi. You know what I mean? She obviously going to do more green gems, but without the skill plate, I don't know how much better it would be, kind of thing.
She should be able to recycle easily, even without the skill plate.
Right. I'm not saying she won't be able to recycle. I'm just kind of wondering on the, the end of the day damage at the end of the day, right? If it's even going to be worth it over Naomi. Because the thing with Naomi is you're going to be able to stack that 300 over and over and over again.
If you can stack it, I would say Naomi right off the bat. It's just like when we're running back to Z-Liv, how you get to stack the yellow gem damage. If you got characters like that, you might as well go first. Yeah,
but even with Z-Liv, you're not going to run the yellow gem damage this time. You're going to run the botches that turn into green gems off the countdown, which is something you can do. You are going to have to swipe, so I do question how much she'll hit for there, but I think it's something you got to look at the end of the day. That's something you just got to kind of take a look at. You're hoping it works, but, you just don't know at the end of the day if it will work, kind of thing. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. Let's move on to the, chaotic era, or the chaotic set. When I'm looking at this, I'm looking at this chaotic set more along the lines of the purple gems. Now, I would run it purple, purple, black. I know some people are going to run it triple purple. I just feel purple, purple, black's better, because the difference with this one is you don't necessarily need her turn one. You know what I mean? Like, you don't necessarily need her turn one. And I think that's the big kicker there. She's not one you need turn one because you're really gonna, you're really there. Yeah, the leech gems are nice, but you're really there at the end of the day for the shield breaker. Bod, welcome to the stream, man. At least that's what I'm thinking. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's at least what I'm thinking.
I mean, the way I'm running her, of course, I am using that black meat thing as well. Excuse me. And then, excuse me. And then I'm stacking, I just need 2 purple MP and I'll be fully loaded all the way around. And I'm just stacking the leech gem damage.
Yeah, I get that, but I just feel like you could play the leech gem, but I almost feel like you're better off playing it as a
Like a chill breaker.
exactly. That's at least that's how I'm feeling, right? Because it is that purple gem. Now, when you get into like a Jersey Wildcat live there and you're aggressive, you are going to play those leech gems there. It is going to be pretty quick, so I feel like that could do some damage there at the end of the day. And just really looking at it, how you could really run it. There's definitely a couple ways, when you look at it and how to run this at the end of the day. When I'm looking at live, but to me, red, black seems like the way to go because you're just gonna constantly recycle once you hit that red. You could run it triple black if you wanted to, but I don't see the point in that. You know what I mean? Red, black to me is the way to go at the end of the day there. But again, I could be wrong, but that's just kind of how I'm looking at it. When you start talking within this boss battle. So maybe there's something there I'm not thinking of with Wildcat Live, but I think she's going to be really good there at the end of the day. What's your thoughts there, Mortal? Because it is something to really look at.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Probably have to dig in a little deep with Wildcat, but with that reset alone, I honestly don't think there's any other choice when it comes to her.
Yeah, and what you're going to do really to set it up is you're just going to run. I personally think it's a pretty easy free to play setup. At the end of the day, if you really wanted to look at it, other than Z Live, but you can substitute that for Boogeyman or Tech Bailey or, anyone else who does Black Gems. But it's Balor, Bushwhacker, Trickster Theory, and Z Live for me. Up the, that's kind of how I'm looking at it there, at the end of the day. Now, again, I could be, this one right here is the one that does scare me because I don't know if it's, the right way to really look at this. And then, with Tiffy,
things where we're gonna have to do test runs to figure out what's gonna be the best.
Yeah, I think you do have to look at it that way. And then for me with Tiffy, it's pretty simple. I mean, if you really want to talk about Tiffy, I think Tiffy's probably the simplest to run. Now you could run Tech Flare. I think. I just think she's going to be a little too slow with the animations. I could be wrong on that, but that's at least my thought process. At
Yeah,
somewhere in
I was
here.
I was testing I was testing her out earlier this afternoon, and she's just a tad bit too slow, animation wise. I mean, she can smack. Don't get me wrong, but that animation is what could make or break the boss battle.
Yeah. And then with Tiffy for me is triple blue. And you're gonna run it now. This is more of a premium setup, I would say, with Z Ray, Patterson, Sammy, and Sika. But I think it would work really well.
And as far as JD, she's got two moments that actually help boost her purple gem damage. So I mean,
Well, you're not playing it
it's
the
a
purple, you're playing it the blue gem
I
and
know,
that.
I know you're saying, yeah. I know the green gem is the main overall boosted gem, but I
You're
mean, just
playing the
in a
blue
sense,
gem
if
on the leech gem, and that to me is where you gotta look at it from, right? Um, you're playing the blue gem on the leech gem at the end of the day.
oh
And especially if you have that R-Truth enters the rumble moment, you're looking at your leech gems doing 200% more damage. So definitely something to look at. And then if you really want to get into it, if you have one gear, blue gems are going to do 100% more damage. If you have both gears, that's really where you want to get your play at, because both gears now allows you to stack the leech gem damage at the end of the day there. But one gear is all really unique because it's 100% blue gem damage. And again, skill points ain't going to matter, so it's something you can look at it changing. Because now you're just going to play, the blue gems at the end of the day, unlike everything else. And again, Fury 3's on this one, and I think you're going to be pretty much okay here with how you want to play this. Again, it is all, dependent on how you want to play it. But I think with Tiffy, when you talk the defensive spot, she's probably the best spot to use there. But I don't know how you feel about that one, Mortal. But when you start talking that defensive spot, that to me is where you're really going to get into some stuff. So I do look at it that way.
that's what gonna help out Tiffy is the leech gem. Without that, without having her,
Well, I'm just looking
you're
at it from this standpoint. You're really talking about hitting
right.
your leech gems. Your leech gems are going to hit for 500%. You're using her main gems at the blue gems. You know what I mean there? So her blue gems are already boosted up. You got the moment at 100%. You got the gear with 100%. Leech gem's going to do 200. So now your leech gem's at 700. You're going to put blue on the leech gem. So that's another, that makes it 800. Then with your belt, if I'm looking at my belt here on her, at the end of the day, blue gems are going to do 458%. So when I really look at this at the end of the day, 450 plus the gears 558 plus the moment at 200, and then the 500. That's over 1,000% there, almost 1,200%. So I think if you build it right and you set it up right, you're going to be set, and it's a constant recycle.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's what you got to look at too there. Loco, welcome, man. I think that's how you got to really look at it there at the end of the day, is how you're going to do that, because to me, that's how you really want to run this thing at the end of the day. Now, again, could I be very wrong? Absolutely. But I think when you're talking the setups here, it is something you want to look at for boss battle. And 1,200% is 1,200%. I don't care who you are.
Oh, so yeah, he's stacking. He's good.
You know, that's just how it is.
You know what? I'm trying to think. What I what is what is Michelle McCoy? Is she aggressive or
I don't know. She's new. I don't have her yet. I know someone in our faction got her. I don't have her yet. But, obviously she'd be good for this just because, the boss battle's kind of set up for her. I know she has a multi setup. I know she has, that kind of stuff. I just don't know what the setup would be on that just yet. It's something that, you're kind of looking at down the road.
right? She's a focus.
She's a focus.
She's
So,
a
I mean, again, I feel like the focus there, you really have it kind of covered here with, Mommy, Cargill, Charlotte, Naomi. So, I think that's where all your hitters are going to come anyway, is the focus. Now, this is where I think you got to look at it too with the boss breakers, because you're not going to need the Hell Freezes Over. You're really going to need the Regeneration X at the end of the day, when you're talking that focus slot, just in case you do get to turn 3. And I think what you're going to need for that chaotic spot is that healer steel, because you're going to want to bring down, what that steel move can do, especially if you don't turn 1 the boss.
Right.
And then when you're really looking at it, I would always go exhaust here for the aggressive. I think that does work at the end of the day. So you're not going to need an unfreeze move this time at all. And that's a big kicker there to me. So that's how at least I'm looking at it. So what we're gonna do
on the chaotic side for boss battle, yeah, that's gonna be the healer skill. The health skill move.
Yeah.
I'm sorry guys, I got out today. But yeah, that's gonna be a definite defensive. You're gonna look at let's if she does some serious damage, I don't know. I would honestly say probably there's gonna be a coin flip between life in the fast lane or shooting up the band for your defensive slot.
I always look at that one as you want to heal that one as quick as possible. That's just me. So to me, the heal's there. But what we're going to do is we do have an ad coming up, so we're going to take just a quick break here while the ad runs, and we'll be back and we'll continue talking boss battle. I'm going to go grab some water real quick. Did you post on Facebook?
I sure did.
All right, everyone, we are back. Appreciate everyone waiting on that. So another thing that we're gonna, when I'm looking at this, I personally think the hitter in this whole setup is gonna be Mommy. And if you really want, for those of you who have, Mommy, on top, where you Ripley the Showboat, she is a focus, but to me, she's gonna be the one that hits. And if you have her gear, you pretty much turn one with Punk, Big Papa Pump, Hall of Fame DDP, and Z Chelsea. Um, because you're going to increase your green gems by 320%. Then you're going to make 49 reinforced gems, and then make 49 reinforced gems into green gems. So you're constantly just going to recycle at the end of the day. And that to me is a big thing when you really want to talk about it. Shout out to Bod, who's in our faction, who gave me that setup. To me, she's going to be the hitter in this whole setup. And that's a big one to me. That's a big one at the end of the day when you really look at it. I don't know how you feel there, Mortal, but that's just how I'm feeling.
Yeah, that's going to be the overall 100% here.
But, she is someone that you could look at and say, hey, she's going to work at the end of the day. Now, today with Naomi, I hope everyone put their boss battles in with Naomi today. Yesterday was Trish. So, I feel like, it's either a lot of it's going to be Showboat and all that. Showboat and the Acro Naomi. At the end of the day, very few people have the striker when you really look at it. So, that's something to really look at there. Now, a segment we wanted to do with these classroom talks is just kind of look at superstars. I don't know if we would call them, I don't know how you would explain this, right? I think it's more superstars you can get good value out of no matter what. I feel like there's a lot of superstars in the game that sometimes get overlooked and doesn't necessarily get the value at the end of the day. I don't know how you feel about that, Mortal, but that's just something I look at, and that's something I feel like when something like this doesn't happen, as far as what your value at the end of the day looks like.
Yeah. I went back and looked. I do have, those unicorn characters, so to speak. So even as a dad, I've even kicked myself in the ass a couple of times for not working on those free to play characters that have been overlooked.
Yeah, and I think you're looking at something there that a lot of people. You're looking at something that a lot of people don't necessarily, I think a lot of people look at, a free to play character and, they dismiss it, when sometimes 20 million is good depending on the roster size. So I think, there's a lot of people like that you kind of got to look at. So what we're going to do here with these Triabl classrooms is obviously we're going to go into what the events are, and all that. But I also want to go into, like you said, free to play characters that could really work. The first one I'm going to look at here is obviously going to be, Tiffany Stratton. Because to me, this is one that has a couple movesets that'll really work at the end of the day. Obviously, there's a plate out there that if you have it, it's the best plate for her, with the tippy time plate. But if you don't, triple blue works really well, especially if you're looking at it from a free to play standpoint. I feel like Hall of Fame Ray's pretty free to play. You want to get him up. Leech gems do 75% more damage. Blue gems are going to do 2% or plus 2. When you really start talking that free to play kind of thing, right, in that move charge, someone else that I look at that could be really good when you really start talking. And, again, this is a lot of this is if you have them. Obviously, Lawler would work there to make sure you're turn 1. But another one that really works, who I've kind of seen kind of come on a little bit more at the end of the day, and I think you'd be really well with them, would be Dirty Dom.
Yes, sir.
Judgment Day Dom. Blue gems are going to do 40% more damage. Blue gems are going to start with 2 more NP. Acro Sammy works really well, but if you don't have Acro Sammy, the American Nightmare or the Highlander Cody works really well. But again, I know he's more of a premium kind of player at the end of the day. Ozzy, Blue Gems do 30%. That's someone to always look at. And then you always got, Sika sitting right there. And if you really look at Sika, he's one who did get quietly got a coach increase at 2,600 to Blue Gems do 30% more damage. So, when you run him with her, you're going to just run it Fury 3 metals with the blue. And, we're going to go in here and we're going to see. Now, the moments do help, but if you don't have the moments, that's okay. But to me, Tiffy is one of these people who you could really get away with. And if you really want to look here, you're still going to run it against the multipliers, which to me is a big thing here, right? When you're running it against the multipliers at the end of the day. So we're going to see what a turn 1 hit looks like for her here. So turn 1, she's doing about 38 million. So if you're a free-to-play player, this is one of those cards I feel like you could bring up. 38 million is nothing to laugh about, especially you're putting that Fury 3s on there. The kickouts are definitely going to be harder, and you're healing yourself, and you're playing it to multipliers. And I feel like a lot of people look at that and say, well, 38 million ain't nothing. But when you're talking a free-to-play roster, I feel like that's something big there.
That is huge. That is massive. I mean, you're pretty close to that 50 mil mark. I mean, I know it's only off by 12 mil, but on the free to play scale, that's I mean, if you manage to get lucky enough to get the Fury 3 Blue Gem medal on top of the, for example, on top of a 100 gem strap belt, which is more common than a 150 gem strap, I mean, that's a win-win situation.
Yeah, I mean, it works really good there at the end of the day. And I think that's what people don't understand, when you're looking at some of these characters. Like, I get it, you do need if you have the Tiffy plate on her like I do, that purple blue is going to hit harder. But it's not something you necessarily, she's not something you necessarily need at the end of the day. And that's the kicker there. So that's a big thing to me there. Um, and that's something that I think people have got to look at. And we'll go through this again. Again, you're not talking any premium coaches or trainers here at the end of the day. Yeah, I get some people would say, Judgment Day Dom may be a little premium, but I don't feel like he's so premium that if you didn't have him, you're only talking maybe a 5 million difference if you really want to look at it. And a plate you could put on her, if you have it, the showstopper plate on her would be really nasty if you had to run her triple blue. What's going on, Dominate? We're doing really well here, man. Just doing some classroom talk, really looking at how, some discounted superstars here that would really work for people. So, if you didn't have the Tibby plate, I do feel like with her, that showstopper plate would really help because you're going to hit the blue move 3 times, which is going to increase your blue gems 150%. So that's something to look at there, as far as a free-to-play player. And again, we're gonna take a look here at this setup. It's a pretty easy setup to me. I feel like these are superstars that you could look at.
Now, Tom is on the lighter end of the premium spectrum, but I mean it's premium. To me, the premium is one of those extremely hard to repeat.
Let's do this. Let's look at it. Let's look at it without Dirty Dom, without Judgment Day Dom. You know what I mean? If everyone, I don't know what the chat thinks here. I feel like Judgment Day Dom's more common now. I know Hall of Fame Ray they gave out for free. But let's look at the difference here. Because like I said, I'm hitting for about 38 million turn 1 with a free-to-play setup on her. Let's look at what happens if you take Dirty Dom away, or Judgment Day Dom, because I feel like it's not that big of a difference. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I feel like you're still in a pretty good class when you start really talking of a free-to-play, especially on that female side.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, there's multiple ways to, even with just the baby.
So even there, like the damage doesn't really change. Like I think it's less than 1 million. Really it's 2 moments. At the end of the day that I got in 1 gear. Now I know those help, but you're talking maybe a 5 to 10 million added on. So you're still talking, you're still talking some stuff there with that. But even then, you're talking 25, 30 million without the gear or any moment. One of the moments I do feel like it's harder to get with her than, say, the other one. But I think it's been coming around a little bit more when you start talking the moments at the end of the day. The other one I feel like is pretty common with the Miz and Maurice. And then obviously you got her Tiffy moment as well.
That Tiffy moment is hard to obtain, even on the prize line.
Yeah, so the Tiffy moment to me is the hardest one to attain. I don't feel like the wedding moment's that hard to attain. But again, you're talking, not much of a difference there for free to play. You're still talking a 25, 27 million on a free to play without those moments or gears. And that to me is the biggest thing. Again, even running it without Dom, Judgment Day Dom, I'd look at it from that perspective. So Tiffy to me is one of these people that, if you're free to play, I think she's one that's got to go to gold. Yeah, I agree there. The second gear is really valuable there, Dominated, but you don't necessarily need it. She is just one of those players that if you're free to play, she needs to be at gold. She's deadly free to play, non-free to play. I use her a lot with that Tiffy time plate, but if I didn't have that Tiffy time plate, I feel like Triple Blue would work just as well for me in Smack. Again, I just run Fury 3s with a 40% move damage belt on her. You know, if I had a 100% move damage belt, I would definitely do it. You know, Kyrie is another one, but I feel like Tiffy plays into the meta more because you can play it defensive too against the multipliers. And that's something that, you know, when we're taking a look at this, Kyrie is definitely someone on our list that we are going to be talking about as the weeks go on with this. So Kyrie is someone we will be talking about. She's not on the list today because I think when you talk to a free to play, you know, you really want to talk about the ones who can help you right now. Kyrie's going to be really good, but Tiffy could help you this moment and continue to help you because of that finisher reversal, you know, and as many females that have multipliers out there. Mortal, I don't know how you're feeling on that, but that's just my opinion.
Right off the bat, I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. I was fixing to say that reversal is killer, instant. You got those multi-gems, it's over.
So, you know, when, you know, part of these segments are to help people understand, you know, when feuding, that a free-to-play can still hit, and all that. So, another one that I want to kind of take a look at here that I think, as a free-to-play player, and that you know, you don't necessarily need the bells and whistles for, or anything like that. And it comes on the men's side, right? And that's Tet Cody.
Right.
Everyone's got Tet Cody. Yeah, I mean, it's different opinions, and, you know, I'm not going to dominate, I'm not going to disagree with you when you say Kyrie, because for a free-to-play player, she's really good. I'm just looking at it from the fact they're both acros. They both kind of fit in that defensive category. And if you're asking me who's more meta, it's definitely Tiffy than Kyrie. Kyrie does smack, don't get me wrong. But I just look at Tiffy as the, you know, when you look at Tiffy, she's the more versatile of the two. Because she is going to play in that. That's just my opinion, you know, when I look at it. But let's look at someone else here. You know, when you talk the male side, Tet Cody has been given out for free, I don't know how many times now. He is someone, you know, I'm ashamed to say don't use a lot as much anymore. You know what I mean? But when you're really talking a free-to-play player, man, he's good.
I remember the minute I got him, I immediately took him to gold and was running the triple sub setup.
So I don't necessarily like the triple sub setup as much. I more like the yellow green setup because you can play this so many ways.
Once I was able to obtain certain plates, I'm not going to say which one, but once I was able to obtain certain plates, then I switched up this movement.
Well, and here's the thing.
That triple sub.
This is what this whole, you know, thing's about, right? That plate is nice, okay? And I'm not going to disagree with you and sit here and say it doesn't, right? Because it adds a lot of damage at the end of the day that, you know, most don't, okay? But, again, if I'm looking at it just from free-to-play standpoints, okay? I agree with you there, Dominated. Like I said, we have a list of people that we are going to go through. He's just not on that list for today. But when I look at Cody, Tet Cody, to me, gets a bad rep just because I feel like people don't understand how to use him, right?
Right.
When you're talking a free to play. Now, if I'm building this from a free-to-play standpoint, okay, obviously different things help at the end of the day, okay? If I was going to build this the way I would normally run this, just, off the top of my head, just real quick for like a feud, the MP is really not that high on this. It's a 6 MP. Now, if I was going to run this as a premium player, at the end of the day, it's Kofi, Sherry, Memrock, and Hogan, Santa Hogan, with the American Nightmare Eximia plate, right? That's how I look at it. But if you really, let's say you don't have Sherry there, there's a certain someone that works really well, and it allows you to change here. Tech Cena can go, or Showboat Cena, that does 40% yellow gem damage and a +2 MP. Then you just throw Strowman in there for Santa Hogan. Now you don't need the MP because you're sitting at 6 already. I feel like with Cody, people don't understand how to run him. Powerhouse Braun looks really well, but he's not free to play. He is a pretty premium guy there, but he does work. I'm looking at just strictly for more of a premium, trying to stay away from the premium during these builds. But when you look at him, even without the American Nightmare plate, I think Cody hits for 35 million. With the American Nightmare plate, he can really smack. So, what I'm going to look at here is the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the countdowns at the bottom. And I feel like people mess up on that so much. Then you're going to choose 6 gems to make into green gems. This is where I feel like everybody messes it up. I'm going to create my own. I'm not going to put all 6 gems out there. I'm going to make a 5 gem here. Right now, you do have that cascade risk. Like, let's just be honest, that is a risk. But running it that way, you're less likely to cascade, I feel like, than you are any other time. And I mean, I'm making the multiplies into ×10 with just a very free-to-play setup. And that, to me, speaks a lot of numbers at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Multiplies ×10. So we're going to run through this just here real quick. I do have armor. I do have Fury 3s on him with 100% belt. You don't necessarily need the 100%. It does really help. So we're going to try this again here. See if we can't get this to play just right like we want it to, without the cascade. He is a little bit of a cascade risk, but I don't feel like he's a crazy cascade risk at the end of the day. So you're going to throw those multipliers out by 10, and then you're turning 24 multipliers into yellow gems. So at base, it's a ×10. Yes, I have the American Nightmare plate on him, but 35 million turn 1, not a bad setup there. If you really want to talk about it from a free-to-play standpoint. You get the American Sigma plate on them. Now you're in the 51%. You're 51 million. And again, looking at this strictly from a free-to-play standpoint, he gets a bad rep, but it's someone you can use. And then let's just look at it from, said premium standpoint, okay? I'm going to use Sherry with the +4 and Santa Hogan to make him turn 1 here, keeping Memrock and Kofi in there. And just to show you the difference here, guys, something to kind of achieve for, but it's not necessarily needed. At least I don't feel like at the end of the day it's necessarily needed. I don't know about you, Mortal, but 51 million, 35 million, that's pretty good numbers.
That's a big jump.
Give me 1 second there, Dominating, and I'll look what the gear does there. So even with Sherry, you're only going up 9 million in damage. So Sherry doesn't play that big of a role at the end of the day.
No, but I do think Belmont now is becoming increasingly more common than premium now.
Yeah, he used to just be stupid crazy to grab. Give me 1 second, because I know Tech Cody does have some gear. I have the gear. So the gears multiply generate for moves will increase their strength by 2. So if you don't have the gear, it's a +8. So that's going to bring in that 28 million range, I think. Again, it's still that 35 to 20, 28 to 35 million turn 1 with Cody. Without gear and the Eximia plate, you start adding the Eximia plate, the gear, and other stuff. This is a guy that can hit, depending on the feud perks, 100 million turn 1. You get the right feud perks with the yellow and the multiplier. Yeah, I believe it is Powerhouse that does have that. I believe you're right there, Dominated. It is Powerhouse that does have that. The next person we're going to look at, we're going to run an ad break right here, and then we're going to come back with the next person, because I think this is someone that gets way too much slept on when you talk free-to-play players. So we'll be back in 3 minutes, guys. Yeah. I think Tech Cody gets slept on way too much.
Way too damn much.
Because you're talking 25, 30, and the right few perks, that could go up to 50.
Because I honestly think still Tech Miz is still not free to play still, even though they give them out for free. I did it was a good chunk of people. I don't know. That was a coin toss to me today. That was driving the shit out of my head.
I look at it like this. He's one of those. So we're going to do
the reason why I was mentioning about the midweek boss battle on Michelle, what her class style was, I was going to touch on Niven, but she's not aggressive, so that's not going to work.
kind of hoping
Because I think the only time that
I kind of hoping the boss battle would have done red moves, honestly.
Yeah. Because what I was thinking, could have they aligned it like the way they did with the last boss battle with what's his name, Boss Man. Yeah, but they didn't do it this time, so.
Luckily, I got this backed up on YouTube too, so I'm going to post this once we end it, because I do have this backed up on YouTube as well.
Nice.
So I'm going to post the link afterwards. Right, 20 seconds left. All right, stream, we are back. So we're going to look at someone here who I feel as a free-to-play player has gotten better over the last 4 months than probably any player in the game. Without really needing nothing, but then if you have some of the newer stuff, it really makes him really good. And that's going to be Striker Austin. I feel like moments are playing into him now. The rework he got is just amazingly beautiful. He is someone I would highly recommend bringing up. So let's just take a look at him here, okay? And let's really look at this. So one of the moments you want to, that I feel is really easy to have is that Tribute to the Truth moment, right? That to me is the first one. Moves will do 141% more damage. All color gems will do 56% more damage. And all gems will create 2 more. When you really want to max it out at level 30, that moves go up to 30% and color gems up to 100%. Then you got the corporate beer bath. And this one to me is the one that just, if you have Striker Austin, grab this moment. All submissions will do 200% more damage per turn. All bleeds will do 200% more damage per turn. To me, it's a no-brainer, right? There's a couple gears for him. Really, you just need two of the gears. If you have the Nurse's gear, there's a whole nother way to run him with the yellow gem setup. So he is versatile. He feels that attitude error, which I feel a lot of people, you got Macho, you got Nash, but you need the gear for Nash and you need a yeet plate. And I feel like a lot of free-to-play players don't have that yeet plate at the end of the day. And I don't know how you feel about that, Mortal, but that's just how I feel.
I agree.
But
you have to have some spirit look as a free-to-play player to come across it.
Yeah, but one gear gets you black moves going to last 3 more turns. The second gear is going to get you moves that do 75. Black submission is going to do 75% more damage. So if I'm looking at this from a free to play, I'm running this triple black, right? And even as a premium player, I like him on this. So you're going to want to start it off with Xavier Woods, the striker, black MP +4. Now this is where you start getting into some. Are they free to play? Are they not free to play? I like Nikki Cross here, the striker. I don't know how easily attainable she is, but I feel like she's attainable if you want to. If not, there's other options. You really just want the +2 black, so you could go Chauncey there for the +2 black. You could go Giovanni, with +2 in the bleed. So I feel like there's options there, right? So we'll run it with Giovanni here, because I do feel like he's probably more free to play than Nikki. And then when you really want to look at it, Kairi Sane, the trickster, I know she's free to play. Bleed's going to do 40% more damage. And then I run, Rocky Johnson. Black subs do 50% more damage. It adds 1 more turn. If you are very premium, you have them. Xavier Woods look really well better than Kyrie. You don't necessarily have to run it. But this is how I just run it. There's no belt needed on this. You know what I mean? So for a trickster, for an attitude error, there's no belt needed. Moments are really going to help it. Gears are really going to help it. But his reworks just as well, I think, at the end of the day for an attitude error. And it's a free-to-play attitude error at the end of the day. So this is going to turn 1 you. So you're going to hit your bleed first. Which that bleed is going to do 5 million in damage. If the opponent's a trickster, you're going to do another 5 million. You're going to turn a 2x3 area into black. And this is where it's very simple, right? Put a 2x3 out there, hit the bleed again. So now you're doubling down on your bleed. So it's 10 million for 2 turns. And then your sub is going to be for 10 turns at 3 million a sub, right? And you're turning them into black gems. So what I feel like a lot of people don't do is they don't play the board to turn them into black gems, right? To refill everything. All I need is one on the board. And he's pretty quick, so he's not going to slow down your partner in feud in this sense, or an attitude error. So you get that. Then again, all I'm going to do is the same thing here. I'm going to turn a 3x2 area into black gems. I'm going to hit the bleed, then turn a 3x2 area into black gems, right? Now, if you do that, the bleed's going to knock him out. And that's the kicker there. So by turn 2, you've already won the match. Mine's at silver, that was a gold. By turn 2, you've won the match. So for a free, and I know we got some guys in here that, like Mr. Loco. I know you're free to play, Loco. Turn 2, pretty quick, good superstar there to use that you could get some easy wins with at the end of the day. Pete Head, I know you're free to play. So, I mean, those are two guys that you could, that is an attitude error, male, especially on the male side. Turn 2, easy win. Right? I mean, legit. Turn 2, easy win. Mortal, what's your thoughts on it?
Oh yeah, Austin 316 from the rework to the moment. I mean, he's probably the most. When it comes to the rework, they did not let us down. This one, I think they put a lot of thought into it, into the thought process. I mean, this one was definitely at the top of the list.
Right, and for an attitude era, really good, really great against a trickster. So let's actually find a trickster here and throw him in, because he is one of those that works really well. Let me find a trickster here in these matches so we can show you guys. Now, the only thing I will say is because of the sub, you do want to be careful going to get sub reversals like Bray Wyatt at the end of the day. But that's really about it. But when you really look at him from Menrock, with that trickster, the bleed's going to double. And, it's someone you could go in there and beat, really easily. So that bleed doubles there. So if I play this the way I want to play this and play it right, you know what I mean, without a cascade, I'm going to do 10 million a turn. Actually, sorry, since it's times 4, it's 10 million, 40 million there on the bleed. So, against a trickster, so when I put my sub out there, it's pretty much over. I don't care, what you got, because that's 80 million against a gold, on the first 2 turns of the sub. Most people's not going to have those helps at the end of the day. And there's no belt needed for him. I think that's the other thing, right? There's no belt that you really need for him. Again, I don't know how you feel about that, Mortal, but if I can get away with not having to need a belt, I like it a lot.
Yeah, I definitely like that having. He is one of the very rare characters.
That the rework actually benefited, I think, at the end of the day. The rework benefited him more than probably a lot of reworks, if you really want to be honest. At the end of the day there. So, let's look at the last one we're going to look at today. Piper Niven, to me, the rework on her is just flat out amazing. Okay? It really is. It's flat out amazing. Now, I am running her a little bit of premium setup with NWO Perfect, Miz, and Tech Brett. Miz, I don't feel like is as premium. I don't feel like Tech Brett's as premium, But if you don't have Tech Brett, you just want to stack the red mood damage, especially if you don't have a pyro plate. So Tech Dawkins would work really well there. If you had to, Carrying Cross works really well if you have him. For her, trying to look at who else potentially, right? Trick Snoop works really well if you have him, but I don't feel like he's free to play. Um, you know, so there's a lot of options there. I'm gonna run it with Brett here. Now this one is all mood damage. So with her, you are gonna want to set up mood damage. And I feel like with her, it is that situation where unless you have the pyro plate, triple yellow is just not the way to go anymore with her. I don't know how you feel about that, Mortal, but that's just how I feel.
I agree with you. I mean, with her rework, she's going to be run very differently now.
Yeah, and I feel that, and there's not a lot that you necessarily need at the end of the day for her, and that's the thing. I run takedown threes on her, 100% move damage belt, no plates on her. And then when you go in here, running it green, red, red, that's, where the big thing comes in at. If you really want to be honest here. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose 6 gems to make into red gems. It's going to increase my red moves by 150%. Okay, I don't want to cascade, so I want to put those where I don't cascade. Then I'm going to skip her. I'm going to skip her turn. Okay, and this is what I'm talking about. So she's got a gem defensive belt on, but 30 million turn 1. Like, a little ridiculous for someone. And she skipped for the next turn. So even if she does kick out, you can recycle that, I feel like, pretty easily there. At 30 million. I don't know how you feel there, Mortal, but that's at 6 gold. And to me, that's just, where the craziness comes in at.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even her putting alone, being able to have that opportunity to keep to the 6 gold, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's really good. That's one of those that, I think a lot of people forget about from a free to play standpoint. She's one of those that the rework definitely helps her on a female end. And a lot of people's gone away from the anti-skip belts on their belts, so it's not something you have to worry about a lot. And then the reversal against Leech Gems, because she puts out Leech Gems, you're taking over the turn again. So by some miracle, you look at that, that's a way to look at it too.
Oh, yeah. So, let's say, for example, you run in Judgment Day Rio with the Leech Gem set up, or you go against someone who's using that setup. I mean, there's no way. That's an instant kill right there.
Yeah, so you're pretty much set there. I'm looking at the chat here. Any questions from you guys? As far as what we've shown you, anything like that? Any disagreements? Anyone think that there's something we missed on this? Anything along those lines?
Or even if there's characters, free-to-play characters that you want to see that are beneficial. I mean, we're glad to show you the best setups for those characters as well.
Yeah, if you guys ever have any suggestions, we're always open to hear them. But I want to hear from the chat here, as far as what they think. If there's something they disagree with here, with what we've shown so far today, anything like that. Well, all right, guys. Well, there's nothing else. That's going to do it for our classroom stream today. Appreciate you guys watching. We'll be back live tomorrow during Boss Battle at 2 o'clock to go over the tours, the Boss Battle situation, all that. And then Thursday we'll be live at 8:30 with the post blog reveal. Friday we'll be back with Classroom, so we'll have more of this kind of content out for you guys. We appreciate you guys watching, and